And welcome to the ConnectFCSed podcast, life skills for today's students. This podcast is about recruiting, supporting, and the retainment of all FCS educators. So a little bit about me. My name is Barbara Scully, and this was my master's degree for project that I had to come up with for my entire graduation project. So this podcast was birthed out of the need of a project, but also the need as a newer teacher. I wanted more support to give future teachers and our current staff. So I enjoy spending time with my family. I have a passion for education. I enjoy networking. I thrive on it. In my free time, which is not much, but I enjoy repurposing furniture, painting, and design, reading both for enjoyment and learning, and travel and be exposed to new opportunities. So the purpose of this project: Family and Consumer Sciences is the only career and technical education CTE department with the focus on human services pathway that addresses essential needs of children and families. It has been proven that educators who do not experience effective professional development do not improve their skills, and student learning suffers. Teachers need other teachers to succeed. With the gaining popularity of social media, other tools become become useful for professional development in support of educators. One such tool is podcasting. Podcasting supports public engagement by sharing impactful stories and content with its audiences. With my podcast, my goal is to better support all educators professionally and improve all of our skills, which are essential for the vitality of FCS programs nationwide. So the project outcomes, I had quite a few wonderful project outcomes that I didn't really think about when I started this project. The only things I was really thinking about were, I wanted to develop a podcast and have the content to support professional development, learning, and or be informational in distribution while aligning with national and family consumer sciences standards. I then was able to analyze how technology has changed and influenced the classroom and take concepts and theories from the literature reviews to develop content for my project in a way that would enhance everybody's classroom experiences. The unintended positive outcomes was develop a publishing strategy that is in alignment with my audience's behaviors. I didn't think about that up until probably July, when I kind of got into the groove of what podcasting was all about and launching each week's episode. Throughout from the time my podcast launched to where we are currently kind of in the middle of October, I have had a steady increase between 2 to 5% increase in audience viewership per month. When I thought about this podcast project, I was looking forward to that increase in viewership, but I didn't realize I didn't think about all the analytics behind it. So the 2 to 5% has been a great growth. I am able to reevaluate past postings on previous episodes to do cross-posting promotion. And then finally, a very positive and unintended project outcome was create the U.S. #1 ranked, downloaded, and listened to FCS podcast. Currently, I'm the #1. It's kind of exciting. So, podcast versus blogs. So, it used to be that blog posts had an advantage over podcasts when it came to search engines. Blog posts are made up of text, and internet search engines like Google can find words and phrases easily. Text loads, and a website faster than audio, so it's faster to find and share. Up until very recently, this meant that podcasts relied on show notes, transcripts, and blog posts promoting individual episodes to make podcasts discoverable in our search engines. Then, as of March 2019, Google Podcasts automatically transcribes dialogue and uses it as metadata. Followed up in August of 2019, Apple followed suit for users with their podcast app. If you search on Google for Apple Pie Recipes Podcast, Google will include individual podcast episodes with apple pie recipes in that search result. But the search term apple pie recipes, it won't mention podcasts. Again, this transcription and ranking feature is very new. Then 2019 was a breakout year for the podcast industry, with TechCrunch reporting a 27% surge in podcast creation from the year before, bringing the total to 29 million podcast episodes across 700,000 podcasts. So we need to look at just a few words, terminology. So when I show my figures in this slide for my literature and research for my support, one word that you need to keep in mind is interest over time. So when you are looking at the graph that I'm about to show, it talks about interest over time. So interest over time means numbers that represent search interest relatives to the highest point on the chart for given the region and time. A value of 100 is the peak popularity for the term. A value of 50 means that the term is half as popular. A score of 0, there was not enough data for this term. So figure 1. So this data was, I was able to retrieve the blogs versus podcasts, which is a snapshot between June 2014 to November of 2017. So we have a good 5-year span. And so it kind of just shows, is podcasting the new blogging? Kind of. So now it's not like blogging ever popped and dropped off the radar. Blogs are still hugely popular today, but I also think podcasts are having their day now. If by looking at this Google Trends, you can see and compare the terms blogs and podcast, and you'll see that notice in 2017, the two crossed over. So that's really exciting. And then now with figure 2, another 5-year span, this is brand new, between October 2015 to March of 2019. The market research in 2017, you see the surge in podcast popularity in recent years, covering a wide range of topics and interests. Blogging, tweeting, participating in webinars, podcasting is now steadily emerging as a new form of online professional development. In the 2019 podcast trend report found that 82.4% of people listen to podcasts for more than 7 hours each week. That's 33.2% of respondents have listened to a podcast on a smart speaker. That's 59% of respondents spend more time listening to podcasts than on social media. And just looking at this data, you can see the surge in podcasts just steadily keeps rising. And blogs, it's on the downward trend, but it still has its purpose and usefulness. So with looking at now figure 3, that's right. Podcasting is on the up and up. The trend is clear, and there's still growth and opportunity in podcasting right now. Today's current data shows that the growing trend in monthly podcast listening, monthly podcast consumers grew by 16% year over year, cresting 100 million Americans for the first time. So by 2022, it's estimated that podcast listening will grow to 132 million people in the United States. Podcasting now reaches over 100 million Americans every month, and it continues to rise monthly. So, podcast listening is now at 37%, up from 32% in 2019. So this monthly podcast listening is, the data is from the Edison research. So now we are in 2020. That podcast industry is growing faster with a flurry of advertising activity and technology changes, and which is great news for content creators such as myself and listeners alike. So the research articles I was able to locate on podcasting technology and professional development that supports my project's theme, there is very little written and research about podcasting in the field of faculty development. There is no research there. So since there's no research, there's no evidence that supports podcasting as a pedagogical approach for professional development, thus now giving me the confidence, encouragement, and validated me to continue my podcast goals. So possibly, if I choose, this could be maybe the foundation for a doctoral degree. We'll see. So podcasting does have the potential to become a useful medium and method for facilitating professional development in education. Effective teacher professional development is the foundation for sustainable and transformative change in teacher practice, which leads to better student achievement. Podcasts are means to support, supplement, and enhance, never to replace the traditional in-person lectures or keynote speakers for professional development conferences or workshops. Podcasts are capable of empowering teacher-led professional learning to cultivate teacher leadership by assisting educators in feeling less isolated by providing an online social media community which offers support of individualized, relevant, and professional learning. There is power in teacher-led professional learning that can cultivate teacher leadership. So while researching my podcast project, I found a couple of podcasts on home economics and only one podcast solely focused on family and consumer sciences, but targets a different kind of audience. That first was Talking Facts. Talking Facts is hosted by the University of Kentucky Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Program. They have educators in every county of the state sharing research knowledge with individuals, families, and communities to improve quality of life. The second is Home Economics, a mortgage company sharing tips how to manage your checkbook, budgeting, credit, and personal finances. Their weekly tips will help you build a positive daily habit that can lead to prosperity over a lifetime. And third, Modern Domestique. Each episode of the Modern Domestique podcast focuses on a different aspect of modern home economics. It's all about exploring a way of life that enhances our environment and community from where it all began, in the home. So, what's in a name? This part of my presentation is about focusing on my content creation. What I knew I wanted to start a podcast, but what did I want to focus on? It had to be focused on family and consumer sciences. And what did I want that to look and feel like? I personally believe my podcast project started with the intention to help support just family and consumer sciences educators, but now it's kind of morphed into, I capitalize on all aspects of teaching that can benefit all teachers. So what's in a name? The start of my podcast journey, I needed to create a name. I first wanted to create a podcast that would speak to educators and families across the nation and enhance the continuation of professional development, information, resources to assist family consumer science educators, and promote awareness of family consumer sciences as a profession in the recruitment and retainment of our educational leaders that could connect students with career readiness skills and post-secondary education. I also wanted to align my podcast vision with the American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences organization, showing support and unity for the AAFCS logo and community. So as you can see, I have my vision of wanting to bring unity from the AAFCS logo. But I also wanted a name that would inspire connection by unifying the FCS community. I wanted to boldly celebrate families and careers. Thus, the only name that brought unity to my vision was ConnectFCSed. This is where we connect our message with connect family and consumer sciences educators, connect families, connect education, connect community, connect FCSed. So influencing with design. Now I have my name. Now I needed to come up with my colors. After the name was decided, I then started the design process of what my logo would look and feel like. My website developer, Kristen, sent me 6 color palettes to choose from so she could have a direction when designing my logo and focus on the website creation. I was able to focus and I was able to share my design process with my second trimester interior design students. I asked them what colors they felt best represented my goals for this project. My students focused on the word bold because I was going to be bold in sharing my knowledge and the expertise of others, but I also wanted a brand on trust. So second, we focused on the color symbolism and meaning with each color palette. We investigated theories on color. We looked at color psychology, what influences and what colors communicate and how the effect of color influences consumer behavior. So thus arriving with my colors, my palette. It was going to be maroon and blue. So the color of ambition and confidence, regarded as one of the more distinct colors, maroon boasts an incredibly strong personality. Gentle, ambitious, and inspiring are among the favorable traits, while the color blue is about trust and loyalty. Blue has a calming effect and relaxation on our psyche that gives us peace and makes us feel confident and secure. So now my resources and stakeholders. When I first initiated this podcast project, I put out just a really light poll just asking, I'm considering creating a podcast geared towards our FCS content. One, would you listen? And what topics would you want? Well, I got a overwhelming response just off of one platform from social media, the Family and Consumer Sciences Teachers Facebook page. There were an overwhelming amount of people that wanted and needed to hear something focused on family and consumer sciences. So my podcast is developed by teachers for teachers. These are all topics that fellow FCS teachers shared with me and what they would like to hear to enhance their methods and teaching practices. So, and I'm so grateful that all of these people shared what they wanted, because this gave me a plethora of topics to choose from. So now we're looking a little bit at my data and analytics. So just from my Facebook page for ConnectFCSed. So this is a snapshot from September 24th through September 30th, 2020. And we need to break down a couple of new vocabulary words: reach and engagement. So as you can see on the screen, I'll take my cursor up. You have reach and then you have engagement. So we're going to talk about that for just a second. Reach measures how many people have seen your post, how many people it has reached. This is a great number to consider when trying to increase the amount of fans my business has, or really wants a certain post to be seen by your followers. Reach will show you how well you are making your product known and how successful you are at getting your posts into people's news feeds. So gaining organic reach has been significantly harder in recent years due to algorithm changes with Facebook's newsfeed. So if you want to grow reach, it's worth exploring paid campaigns. But for me personally and professionally, I am not interested in paid campaigns just at this moment, because I'm focused on trying to gain that organic and authentic targeted audience. We have a niche, and I want to focus on that niche. I'm not looking to get big and huge. I'm really just aiming my content towards enriching our FCS teachers. I want to give them professional development that they are wanting to listen to, and how that they can listen and have high impact in their own classrooms. So the second word that you're going to learn about is engagement. Engagement measures the number of interactions made with each post, how many views, clicks, comments, likes, and shares my post gets. So engagement metrics are important to consider if you're trying to build a relationship with your customers, increase their loyalty with my business, or measure customers' intent to take an action, like purchasing a product. So, however, reach and engagement do not go hand in hand. High reach doesn't necessarily mean that your engagement is high as well. It's possible to have high reach and low engagement, and vice versa. Measuring engagement is primarily based on how compelling your post is to your targeted audience. And with a higher engagement comes higher visibility, also known as higher reach for your posts. For me, as you're looking at my data, just for this last September 24th through the September 30th snapshot, I have decent reach. Engagement is low, but currently right now I'm focused on teaching. So I am really focusing on trying to make my own personal classes enriched with content. So I have not really been focusing on my podcast the last several weeks, just because something has to give always. If I want to focus on my classes and my family, then I need to step down from podcasting and posting and trying to put relevant content out. I can't do it all. Or if I want to focus on my podcast, which I was able to really heavily focus on from March, from COVID, all the way up until, probably beginning August is when I started to taper off. searching for new people to interview and schedule those talks. I needed to start changing my mindset and start focusing on my actual classes. I have been writing. I've been writing a lot and not blogging, but journaling, doing self-reflection, because as a teacher, that is the most powerful part of teaching that we can do, and that is self-reflect and critique. So for me, I've been doing a lot of self-reflection. I've been doing a lot of writing just for everything that I've learned over the past 6 weeks since school has started. So when it comes to project accomplishments, I couldn't be more proud of what I have done in such a short time period. ConnectFCSed is a web-based project, content both on YouTube and audio bites downloaded for streaming by viewers and subscribers, offered on multiple platforms such as Apple Radio, YouTube, and Spotify. Apple Podcast is the world's largest platform for podcast discovery and listening, with over 1 million shows across a broad variety of categories and subcategories. Spotify is the second largest podcast platform. Spotify is now edging closer to take over the podcast market. And then with podcasting, you can record new podcast episodes and distribute them on all major apps like Apple, formerly known as iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google, using a podcast host, which for me, that is Simplecast. And while quality content will typically rise to the top, finding new podcast listeners takes more effort than building an audience on YouTube. So I just kind of want to do a special note that at the beginning of July, I contacted Dr. Amanda Burris of GP Ideas, Great Plains Interactive Distance Education Alliance, to congratulate them on their successful podcast launch for advisoryship. My master's degree is partnered with GP Ideas and Central Washington University, which is my home university that I am aligned with. So I contacted GP Ideas to congratulate them. And then I shared with Dr. Burris that I just published my podcast, and without me I wasn't even looking for kudos or congratulations or anything. I was just simply sharing. And next thing I knew, Dr. Burris emailed me back a couple of days later, congratulating me and saying that she just shared my ConnectFCSed website link to the GP Ideas online masters in family and consumer sciences. So there is a live link on that platform for future teachers or current teachers who are looking to get an endorsement on the page, and that way I can gain a new audience. And then in the beginning of July as well, I crested over reaching 1,000 downloads. That's huge. My podcast launched in the beginning of May, and then by July, I had already reached 1,000 downloads. And now September, looking at my Simplecast analytics, I have now successfully reached over 2,000 downloads. So it seems like the growing trend as of currently, I am gaining 1,000 downloads every 3.5 months. It seems to be about right. May, June, or 2.5 months actually, now that I count. And then on August 1st, I revamped my logo. So these are just snapshots of my YouTube channel and my Apple, and then my Spotify, and I have my big head. I'm gonna have to rebrand my cover because I have a hard time seeing myself. But as you can see, my logo initially, it was just the C and the A, the people. And now I have my C, the people, and my front person that has headphones. My platform is podcasting, so I want my audience members to be listening. So my toolbox. But really, far and large, the biggest technical skill gained from this project creation was learning how to utilize Simplecast, Audacity, Zoom, and Calendly. I've had limited experience utilizing these tools prior to creating the podcast, so it has greatly expanded my technical skill sets, both in social media, community management, digital build and production, multimedia, content creation, insight and planning. And then we have human resources, communication skills, scheduling, leadership skills, organizational skills, performance management, network and collaboration. All of these are such vital points when it comes to putting content out there like this. Now, this is just a couple of analytics that I was able to take screenshots on from my Simplecast, and I'm able to see and track all of just the top 5 or 6 shows that are most current, and I'm able to track and see how well they're doing. So this snapshot was taken October 1st, and you can see I've crested over the 2,000 downloads mark, and that is the analytics that I look at. I have 64 new unique users who are listening, so that means that they've never visited. It's a brand new IEP address. And then I'm also able to view top countries. So by far and large, the United States is who is listening the most. But I also have Canada, Australia, and I have Ireland, Japan, so many. And the pictures that you're looking at, these are just some of the people, amazing people that I've been able to interview. Cooking with Mama Bear. She is a FCS teacher in middle school in St. Louis, I believe. And she has her own YouTube channel, and she teaches students how to cook. She's in a virtual learning setting as well as I am. And so she's teaching her kids by cooking through the use of technology and using YouTube as her platform. And she has so much fun, so much fun. She keeps all of her bloopers in, all of her mistakes, because she wants her students to see authentically, just like if we were in the classroom, hey, we all make mistakes. And mistakes are okay because we can learn from those. Then I was able to interview Tisha Richmond of Make Learning Magical. She is a prior family and consumer sciences culinary arts teacher who has now stepped into a technology specialization role for her district. And she also is a keynote speaker where I was able to meet her in person at my Washington State affiliated organization for being, she was my keynote speaker for our conference. I was able to interview Dr. Monica Burns of Class Tech Tips. She is a previous elementary school teacher who capitalized on technology early on. And now she works as a keynote speaker. She puts on workshops, just showing all sorts of different ways and organizing ways how to utilize technology in the classroom. Then I was able to interview Houston Kraft of Character Strong. Character Strong is a social and emotional learning platform. And he shared just so many wonderful insights on what Character Strong is, but also he shared he just released and published. It was right before his launch of a book called Deep Kindness. So I highly encourage you to check that out if you're into reading at this moment. And one of my most recent interviews was with Jeff Utek, and he is known in Washington State. He does Reimagine Washington, and he was a elementary school teacher, and he worked in Japan, and he taught students English over there. And well, he was a foreign exchange teacher. He was teaching at the time when SARS outbreak happened, and they immediately had to go into a virtual learning environment. Well, he has done very well for himself, and now he's back here in Washington and teaching Washington how to pivot our educational society into a virtual learning environment. So check him out, Jeff Utek of Shifting Our Schools and Reimagine Washington. Now, this project has been excellent for career and professional development, as it has allowed me to network with other family and consumer science educators across the nation, Canada, and I am corresponding with Australian home economics teachers. Moving forward in my career as an educator, my intention is to maintain the ConnectFCSed website, podcast platform, and other social media outlets. I want to continue growth and development as a family and consumer sciences educator, professional, and advocate for family consumer sciences as a profession. My goal is to, in hopes, partner with AAFCS and have them sponsor my podcast project. But this has been wonderful in leadership, public relations, professional networking, virtual learning, and continued development of technical skills. So, in reflection and summary, becoming the effective educator takes time to develop, but in my short time frame as an educator, I've been able to reflect on key steps that have helped me become the resilient educator that I am and that I know that I can become. Being a teacher takes more than a passing grade on a skills test. Subject knowledge is important, and idealism is great. But neither are enough to get you through a career in the classroom. Being a good teacher means reflecting on your methods and your practice. 1, lean on your colleagues. As a new teacher, both starting my career and moving across the state, I have learned and leaned heavily on my building professionals, asking questions, observing master teachers, demonstrate multiple instructional strategies, thus giving me new ideas how to bring back to my own classroom. Lean on your professional community for support. This gives us all the ability to learn from one another. 2, build a network. There has never been a better time for teachers to create their own professional learning community. With the multiple social media platforms available for today's modern educator, we are no longer limited geographically. We can collaborate digitally transforming our teaching practices, sharing insights from their teaching experiences, and engage in collective problem solving. Social media allows us to connect not only to those we know, but also to those that we don't. In this space, we are able to share our interests and our passions. Having a digital space, we can share links, comments on educational research, debate, collaborate, and create new knowledge with individuals no matter where they live or work. Third and finally, continued education. The best educators keep learning. When teachers pursue higher education, they are learning better ways to teach, discover new teaching strategies, and implement new project-based learning activities, PBL. I've discovered that continued education gives teachers the opportunity to step out of their routine and receive the help they need to become better teachers and the experience to become effective future leaders for tomorrow. In conclusion, here is a full listing of all materials utilized in support of my podcast project. This is journal articles referenced in this presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to my presentation. If you have any questions or comments, or you would like to become a guest on my podcast, please connect with me at barbara@fcspodcast.com. And we can schedule a time to set up an interview. Or if you have resources that you want to share on the ConnectFCSed website, please send that over to me and I will have that uploaded immediately for sharing purposes. We are better together when we can unite to help support not just all teachers, but our new and upcoming rising stars who are going to be graduating soon in this new virtual learning environment. So sharing is caring. We don't like to recreate the wheel, and we're better together. Thank you for listening.